Ever get that, like, shiver down your spine,
Mm-hmm.
when you realize you almost fell for something fake online,
Mm-hmm.
like that too good to be true deal. Except it's not sneakers, it's, well, it's a news story.
Right.
We've all been there. But what if I told you there's a whole other level of fake online, like a meticulously crafted machine, and it's designed to, mess with our minds?
Yeah. No,
That's what we're diving into today,
yeah.
a deep dive into a Russian disinformation campaign.
This is a big one.
It's so sophisticated, it's almost like designed to be caught.
It is like they wanted to leave their fingerprints all over the crime scene, which is, I don't know, it's fascinating and unnerving. But let's back up for a second.
Yeah, let's unpack this thing. What are we even talking about here?
So we're talking about this U.S. Department of Justice affidavit, and I'm telling you, it reads like a spy thriller. It exposes this operation, and they call it Doppelganger.
Okay.
Kind of a fitting name because it's all about creating duplicates, doppelgangers of the truth.
Okay, doppelganger. So it's not just like some random internet trolls, right? This affidavit, it actually, like, names names.
Oh, absolutely. And we're not talking about, low-level operatives. The ringleader here, this is Sergei Kiriyenko. Now, this guy, he's not just Putin's right-hand man. I mean, this is a former prime minister with a background running Russia's nuclear energy agency.
Hold on. He was in charge of nuclear energy.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big jump to, like, disinformation.
It is.
I mean, what does that tell us about how Russia views this stuff?
Well, I think it suggests that they see information as another battleground, just as critical as any military front. And they're playing the long game here using, very sophisticated tactics to exploit our trust in online information.
So how does this doppelganger thing actually work? Give me the rundown.
So imagine, like, a two-pronged attack. First,
Mm.
you've got these fake websites, but they're meticulously crafted to mimic legitimate news sources.
Right.
We're talking stolen logos, copied layouts, even domain names like WashingtonPost.ltd, designed to trick you, at a glance.
Sneaky. Most people wouldn't even notice that LTD.
Exactly. But here's the second part. They also created their own news brands from scratch.
Oh, wow.
And these weren't just clumsy attempts at fake news. They were designed to look and feel like real journalistic outlets, complete with their own editorial voices and target audiences.
So they're controlling both sides of the equation.
Yeah.
The fake versions of real news and their own made-up brands.
Mhm.
That's wild.
And here's where it gets even more interesting. They'd often plant the same articles across both types of sites, making it seem like a story was getting independent confirmation from multiple sources.
So you're scrolling through your, say, social media feed, you see the same story pop up from different outlets, and you're thinking, well, there must be something to it if everyone's reporting on it.
Precisely. It's a clever way to manipulate how we perceive the validity of information. I mean, they understood that in the online world, repetition creates the illusion of truth.
It's like they're hacking our brains, exploiting the way we naturally process information.
And they didn't just focus on spreading, like, blatant lies. One of the documents we'll look at from the affidavit talks about their strategy of using real facts to complement fake facts.
Whoa.
They were weaving disinformation into a broader narrative, making it harder to separate truth from fiction.
So they're not just, like, making stuff up. They're lacing it with just enough truth to, make it stick.
Right.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
But how did they get people to actually see this stuff? Were they just, like, blasting it out randomly? Or was there a method to the madness?
This is where it goes from unsettling to downright insidious. They weren't just throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? They understood that to really move the needle, they needed to exploit the very fabric of the internet.
Okay, so what were they exploiting? Like, give me an example.
Everything. I mean, just think about how you end up on certain websites or how certain posts end up on your social media feed.
Right?
It's not magic, it's algorithms, and those algorithms feed on data.
Right, like what you click on, who you follow, all that stuff.
Exactly. And the Russians, well, they weaponized that. They use this technique called cybersquatting to trick those algorithms.
Yeah.
Imagine searching for, a news site, and you accidentally click on a domain that's like just one letter off.
Like, instead of .com, it's .co or something like that.
You got it. And they'd buy up those domains, create like these mirror image websites. Boom. They're suddenly scooping up traffic from people who don't even realize they're being misled.
That's scary how easy it is to fall for that.
Yeah.
But the website itself is just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
How did they get people to actually engage with the content once they got there?
Well, they had a whole bag of tricks for that. But one of their main strategies was to build what they called a U.S. social media influencers network.
Wait, so they were trying to create their own, Like
Yeah.
influencers, like those people with millions of followers who are always hawking like detox teas and teeth whiteners.
Not exactly. What they were aiming for was something much more subtle and insidious. They weren't after huge follower accounts. They wanted to create these networks of like seemingly ordinary accounts that appeared to be run by, real Americans.
So fake profiles pushing fake news.
Exactly. These accounts would share links to the fake news articles, post comments, engage in discussions, all designed to make the propaganda seem like it was coming from like grassroots support.
And because, people tend to trust information that comes from their own social circles, so they're more likely to, well, fall for it. It's like social engineering, but on a massive scale.
That's a great way to put it. And these weren't just like random generic accounts. The affidavit mentions how they targeted specific demographics, tailoring their messaging to exploit, existing anxieties and divisions.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, one document outlines this plan to target U.S. voters in, key swing states with messages designed to suppress voter turnout. They even discuss creating tailored content for, like, specific ethnic and religious groups, using, wedge issues to sow discord and distrust.
So they were playing both sides against the middle, trying to make people question their own communities and institutions. It's like they were weaponizing our own identities against us.
That's the disturbing genius of it. They weren't just trying to change minds. They were trying to fracture the very fabric of our society.
This is some seriously dark stuff.
Yeah.
But how did they manage to keep all of this under wraps? I mean, didn't social media companies catch on at some point?
They did, eventually. But the Russians were prepared for that, too. They had a strategy for everything.
Okay, lay it on me. What was their strategy for evading detection?
Well, the affidavit mentions something called perishable accounts. Basically, they treated these fake profiles like burner phones. They'd use them for a while, spread their disinformation, and then abandon them before the platforms could shut them down.
So it's this constant cat-mouse game. They shut down one account and like 10 more pop up in its place.
Precisely.
Oh.
And they took it a step further with what they called sleeper social media groups. These were groups that would lay dormant for months, even years, building trust and establishing themselves within a community before being activated to push propaganda at a, critical moment.
So they were playing the long game, infiltrating online communities, and waiting for the right time to strike.
Yeah.
It's chilling. But the thing that really blows my mind is the whole, like, AI angle. I mean, using computers to write fake news, that sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's straight out of science fiction, but unfortunately, it's our reality.
So how exactly were they using AI in all of this?
Well, remember those news brands they created, the ones posing as like legitimate outlets?
Right.
In the affidavit, it reveals that they were using AI to basically pump out content for these sites, making it faster and cheaper to just flood the internet with their narrative. They even had like specific projects.
Like what?
Like one was called the Good Old USA Project, and it was aimed at undermining U.S. support for Ukraine.
So they're basically like feeding propaganda into an AI system.
Yeah.
And it's spitting out articles, social media posts, and who knows what else.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like something out of a techno thriller, but, implications are very real. The affidavit actually links the operation to OpenAI accounts, the folks behind ChatGPT.
Wait, so they were using the same technology that powers, like, those AI chatbots
It looks like it, yeah.
to write their propaganda. That is both, like, impressive and terrifying at the same time. But if they were trying to be so stealthy, why be so obvious about using AI? It seems like that would be kind of a dead giveaway.
That's the million-ruble question. Part of it might be, just about efficiency. AI makes it easier to create these large volumes of content quickly. But there's also this theory that they wanted to get caught, at least eventually.
Why would they want to get caught? That doesn't make any sense.
Think of it as like a form of information deterrence. By showcasing their capabilities, by showing how easily they can manipulate information online, they're sending a message.
What kind of message?
It's like they're saying, we can do this, we are doing this, and there's not much you can do to stop us. It's about sowing doubt, undermining trust, and ultimately, like, making people question the validity of everything they see online.
So it's not just about winning the information war. It's about making sure everyone else feels like they've already lost.
Yeah.
That's chilling. But if, exposure is part of their game, then this affidavit is a major setback for them, right?
Absolutely. Shining a light on these tactics, I mean, that's crucial. The more we understand about how this stuff works, how disinformation works, how it spreads, how it exploits our own online behavior, the better equipped we are to, resist it.
So what's the takeaway for our listener? What can they do to protect themselves from, getting caught in this web of deception?
Well, I think first and foremost, just be skeptical. Don't just blindly trust anything you see online, no matter how convincing it seems or how official it looks. Check the source, always. Look for unusual URLs, typos, anything that seems a little bit off. Be wary of emotionally charged language or us versus them narratives. I mean, those are classic, manipulation tactics.
And if something seems too outrageous to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of a good fact check. I mean, there are plenty of reputable organizations out there that are dedicated to debunking misinformation.
It's like that old saying, trust but verify.
Hmm.
But I feel like in the age of, digital disinformation, it's more like verify, then verify again.
Right. And don't be afraid to diversify your information diet, right? Get your news from multiple sources, including, those that maybe challenge your existing viewpoints.
Like they say, if you're only getting your news from one source, you're not getting news, you're getting a narrative.
Exactly. The best defense against disinformation is a well-informed public.
Yeah.
One that's engaged, critical, and constantly kind of questioning what they see online.
This deep dive has been a wild ride, and honestly, a little unsettling, but it's so important to be aware of what's happening behind the scenes of our digital world.
To our listeners, thanks for joining us on this journey. Remember, stay curious, stay skeptical, and most importantly, stay informed.